traveling the state to bring you the important issues facing Mississippi. This is the Mississippi Hometown Network.
Secretary Zinke, thank you for being here, and thank you for honoring us with hopefully an announcement that's going to be made about the future of this small ranch-style home that now exists in the treasures of history. Unfortunately, because of the event that took place there that night on June the 12th of 1963. Charles Evers is here tonight. I can only imagine, as I spoke to one of my dear brothers just a short time ago. I love my brothers dearly. I would lay down my life for either of them, and they would do the same. I could only imagine the horror that would take place in our lives if we lost one of them, particularly to a terrorist attack, and that's exactly what it was, a terrorist attack that took this young man's life. A freedom fighter who knew the dangers that he was facing. Rena with a young family, a beautiful wife, this young man pushed forward, bring light into a dark world. His life was taken from us, but his memory never was. There he married a courageous, amazing woman. Myrlie Evers, Mrs. Evers, is someone that I have grown close to, and I pray for her well-being now, Rena. I look forward to talking to her and visiting with her again. We often have times, or not often as I would like, but to have lunch in the mansion and discuss history and the future of what we want our grandchildren to see as a bright and beautiful Mississippi. It is strange that somehow I have been drawn to this young man, Medgar Evers, to be somewhat surprised at how anyone could do this. How could he go forward knowing what it might cost, realizing that his life could be taken at any time, realizing the horrors that could be perpetrated upon his own family, yet he went on. We're all drawn to heroes such as these. I remember the day before the opening of the Civil Rights Museum. It was a small amount of tension. I see archives and history here. It was going to be a big day, and they were expecting heavy snows. And there were some things that just happened that day that we were not prepared for, like the President of the United States arriving. So to prepare myself for that day, I went to the home of Myrlie and Medgar Evers, and I stood there in that driveway. A rush of emotion overcame me, realizing that that was the place and the location that Medgar had given his life. I could not imagine how such an act could take place. How could one human being perpetrate such violence upon another? A terrorist attack was all I could think of. It's the only answer for it. But I realized that day that we were moving forward to make certain that the rest of the nation and the rest of the world would never forget what happened there in front of that home, that 12th of June of 1963. That would be the real tragedy. That would be the real loss. We're here today to say that's not going to happen. We're here today with a United States Secretary of the Interior, a great man that intends to come to Mississippi and to the entire nation with the African American Civil Rights Network Act, and make certain that these locations of history are never lost. Secretary Zinke, I want to thank you for being here. I want to introduce you to this wonderful man. We've got to know each other somewhat, meeting during the administration, during the times as we have to visit in Washington, D.C. I began to realize that as I reviewed his resume today, he too has sacrificed a great deal for this nation. 23 years as he served in the United States Navy, becoming a commander of the United States SEALs. 23 years. Before that, he attended the University of Oregon. He was an all Pac-10 football player. I should have guessed that. He's been an All-American for the United States of America. He believes in those words that Roosevelt's arch at the Yellowstone National Park, that public lands are for the benefit and enjoyment of the people. The public lands that we have here in this great state are certainly for the benefit and for the enjoyment, and this will be for the reflection of the people. Ladies and gentlemen, this great man served his state of Montana in the House of Representatives as a state senator. Senator Wicker has, and he served in the United States Congress. Now he is serving in President Donald Trump's cabinet as the 52nd United States Secretary of the Interior. Ladies and gentlemen, would you welcome with me Secretary of the United States Interior, Ryan Zinke.
When I think about Martin Luther King, I remember when he was assassinated. I'm from Montana. I remember my mom crying. Not knowing the man either, but knowing what the man stood for. In D.C., I often give tours of the Lincoln Memorial. And it's interesting where the Lincoln Memorial is placed in Washington. Because across the river is Arlington, General Lee's home. And the cost this nation paid to go from what I consider old America to the new America, where all of God's children can enjoy life, liberty, and freedom. And that cost was Arlington, where Edgar Evers is buried. Today, the story is about Sergeant Evers. He served in World War II on the beaches of Normandy, fighting for our freedom. He came home to Mississippi, and he began again to fight for our freedom. And he did. Martin Luther King's place in D.C., he does not have his back turned to Lincoln, nor does Lincoln have his back turned to Lee. Martin Luther King is in front of Lincoln, just the same as Medgar Evers is in front, advancing for us all to form a better and perfect union. I'm honored today to save this story because it's important. We shouldn't run from our history. And yes, in some moments we have a bruised history. In some moments we have a bloodied history. But we have to learn from that history, not hide from it. And if we learn together, we will march forward and form a perfect union where all of God's children can enjoy, including you, young man, because that's why we're here, for your generation. And we can't ever forget. And Dr. Hogan, you're right. I did change when I walked through the gates. One is the first thing she did, she hit me up for about $1.5 million grant. Which I'm honored to say I'm committed to do because it's important. But also, the Civil Rights Network. We're putting together a trail and a path for our nation to learn, understand, reflect on the values we all share. I also am announcing today that we're putting in process, beginning the 30-day public process to make the Edgar Evers home a national monument. So I appreciate your kind invitation to be in Mississippi, and it just feels better when you get out of D.C. and Mississippi. It just does. And people ask me about, what's your relationship to Mississippi? I spent a lot of time on the Pearl River. We have a little seal base down river, and I spent a lot of time in the clays and mud of Mississippi, and I kind of like it. But thank you so much, and now it's my pleasure to introduce the great daughter. Right? Is that as a military man, and not only a commander, but I also am a father. I told my daughter two things: don't join the Navy and don't marry a Navy SEAL. She did both. But the sacrifice that the family makes in the military is no less than the sacrifice of the families and the struggle for freedom and civil rights. It's time away from home. In some places, you're treated unkindly. A lot of sacrifices nights away. But thank you for your sacrifice, your dedication, and thank you for all you have done and will do.
The spirit of so many live on, and we are lucky to embrace it. My family, thank you for being my family. And if I can ask you to stand to be recognized, would you please? You know, you can't go anywhere without somebody with you, right? Always. And so it's wonderful to have family here. Secretary Zinke, thank you so much for being here, first of all. And to your daughter, she heard you. But she also knew to go in her path. But she remembers all the teachings that you gave her. So don't worry, it's there. It might be 30 years later, but it's there, because I'm learning. My friend, the wonderful president of Tougaloo College, Dr. Beverly Hogan, our governor, Phil Bryant, thank you for running Mississippi and for being a friend. And Senator Roger Wilson. I might have stumbled there, but I don't mean to stumble on it. Thank you for always embracing us when we go to see you in Washington, and for being here to do what we need to do here in Mississippi. Now, I can't forget this side, because this side is special in a lot of ways. And I'm going to start with the realtor, Skipwith, who's been on my radar for about a month or so, and who's been on my phone for longer than that. Pastor James, thank you for bringing it and putting it real. There's two things, though, I just need to say. One is that my parents had a relationship. Not one person told the other one what to do. They worked as a team. So my mother and my father always discussed and came to a conclusion. Whether my mother wanted to say she did it or not. And Hollis Watkins, what can I say? You are one of the spirits that's living and will always live on. Thank you for always being here for our family and for everyone in the movement. And thank you, Ms. Ophelia, for coming for our mayor, always doing such a superb job of representation. Thank you so much. But more importantly, thank all of you. Our family really is overwhelmed by this honor. My mother, who I've been on the phone with nonstop for 24 hours, is so, frankly, upset that she's not here. But 85 has caught up with her with all of what she's been doing for the last 85 years almost. And so she has been instructed to stay as much as she tried to come. And so she sends her regrets, but she also sends her remarks. So, with that, I will be respectful and do her remarks first. And I will do just that. To the Honorable Ryan Zicke, Secretary of Interior, Beverly Hogan, President of Tougaloo College, distinguished Mississippians, to our family, and as she says, especially Medgar's daughter, Rena, and son, James Van Dyke, who could not also be here. Most of you are aware that I have two brothers. One has already passed on, and that's Daryl Kenyatta. But James Van Dyke, my younger brother, which he hates to hear that, but he is by 5 years, had a previous engagement when this date came up, and he could not make it, but he sends appreciation for everything. I, Myrlie Evers, the mother of Medgar's children and his widow, welcome you to this historical event today, August 3rd, 2018. We are gathered to commemorate, yes, celebrate the designation of the Medgar and Myrlie Evers home into the African American Civil Rights Network. I am thankful for this celebration, the life and legacy of Medgar Wiley Evers. No one knows better than I his devotion to America, the land of his birth, the state of Mississippi, and his belief in freedom for all of his people. He was willing to pay for that freedom with his life. Medgar wanted no praise for his work. He only worked to the benefit of his country, his people. He stated, if necessary, I will give my life and give it gladly to see my country, the land of my birth, live up to its promise that we citizens are free to work and receive the promise of America. America is still a work in progress. As before, Medgar never wanted praise. He fought for his country in World War II and continued that fight upon his return in Mississippi. And then she says, you know the story, and the story was just said. May those of you who visit our house, our home, learn more, feel the spirit and be moved to walk in his footsteps. May Tougaloo College continue to be a shining light in American education. May the United States of America become even more human and strong in keeping the promise of America to all of its citizens. Honorable Mr. Zinke, I look forward to the completion of the home becoming a national monument. Thank you. And she doesn't know it yet, what you just said, but you know, there's a phone call that's waiting for you after this.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank all of you for your support. God bless you, Myrlie Evers. If you just give me a leeway of just some personal thoughts of my own. This is so special. It is an honor today, and the honor is bringing my childhood home and bringing it as designated under the United States Department of Interior as the fourth, if I understand that correctly, the fourth site designated under the new bill, African American Civil Rights Network Act. Today is bittersweet. My father was assassinated in Mississippi, the state of his birth, on the driveway of our home, the state that he loved and worked tirelessly to transform cold, rigid hearts to ones of compassion, equality, and inclusion. It is still a place at times that's too painful for my family to bear. But the assassination was a tragic wake-up call, not only for our family, but for all the torchbearers, the warriors of the movement, such as Hollis Watkins, Fannie Lou Hamer, Amzie Moore, Dr. Mason, Dr. T.R.M. Howard, so many. The citizens of the United States of America and the world. My father's life's pursuits, along with so many then and now, as we saw by the raise of hands that Hollis Watkins asked for, in the movement, came from the belief in our United States government to uphold the Declaration of Independence, which states in part, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that amongst these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." After his death, my mother, Mrs. Myrlie Evers, carried on his legacy and unintentionally created her own successful legacy through her work in civil rights and women's rights over the past 50, 60 years. I'm currently blessed not only to be their daughter, but to be the executive director of their namesake, the Medgar and Myrlie Evers Institute. And it was founded to continue their legacy and their life's work. Education, economic awareness, empowerment, equal justice, voter registration, and all the others that were named today. My father, along with those active citizens who were threatened in the 50s, in the 40s, in the 60s, in the 1900s, and now, they persevered. They understood dedication, and they understood what it cost. The story of the struggle during those horrific, terrible times for all of us in Mississippi come through all the sites that you will see, all the sites that you might not hear about, but you need to go visit. It will come through as the spirits of our ancestors to push us through to a better world. Designating our family home in this network significantly honors his passionate dedication, her persistence for justice, their contributions, but for a movement that did not just change Mississippi, it changed the world. I dare say the United States of America would not have had the physical foundations, innovative, successful ideas, and inclusive passion that is prevalent today. I am both humbled and gratified by this designation. Today's ceremony, I feel pride in my sorrow. we still have issues in this country, in this state, regarding race, regarding inclusion. By the raise of hands, I see warriors out there. We will continue this fight. And I go by one of the quotes that my father has said, and this guides me through one of his many. Although great strides in the field of human relations have been made, we cannot give up now. Preserving history's truth is an investment in the success of our future. Thank you.
Well, they can go to our website, www.tougaloo.edu, or they can call our Office of Institutional Advancement at 601-977-7870.
This has been the Mississippi Hometown Network. If you have any questions, please email us.
I participated personally in over 70 ribbon cuttings last year. I've seen about 10 NASCAR.
From serving in the office of governor
for the state of Mississippi,
for the state of Mississippi,
that I will faithfully
government is designed to support innovation and encourage economic growth.
Mayor Eddie Fulton from Twitter. So once again,
I was first alternate 2 years ago, and so it's a very similar experience in France.
At the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad
to our semifinalists and all of our fantastic contestants. They were absolutely tremendous. Don't you agree?